The part of Jammu and Kashmir highlighted in a dark outline is Aksai Chin, an area that was annexed by China in 1962. Aksai Chin is a very high altitude area of plateau and mountains. The plateau area are over 5,000 meters high and the mountains even higher. The climate and thin atmosphere are hostile to all forms of life. After independence in 1947, Jawaharlal Nehru did not pay too much attention to securing the borders. In fact, he was on record saying that India may not need an army at all. The Chinese built a highway through Aksai Chin in 1951. This was known to various agencies but was never made public. And finally, by 1959, when the fact could no longer be hidden, the Chinese were ready to push in and forcibly annex the area, which they did in 1962. The purpose of this video is to look at the Chinese road infrastructure and military presence in the Aksai Chin area. Before we get to the details, it is worth looking at an overview of what the Chinese have by way of roads. The thick blue line represents the main Chinese highway from eastern China running through Tibet to Aksai Chin. The distance from the city of Chengdu to Aksai Chin is about 2,500 kilometers. And from the military bases in Lhasa, the distance is 1,500 kilometers. It is not an all-weather highway, so the Chinese are not going to have it easy to ferry military supplies to Aksai Chin through these extended distances. The thick red line represents the railway line to Lhasa. Even via the railway, which is faster, Aksai Chin remains over 2,500 kilometers from eastern China, where all the supplies have to come from. We first look at the northern part of Aksai Chin. The green lines represent the roads built by China from the main highway, which is the blue line, to the line of actual control, or the LAC. All these roads are rough dirt tracks and are not all-weather roads. Some of them run across rivers, and the distance from the LAC to the main highway in this area is more than 200 kilometers. The two main Chinese military camps are placed along the valley of a river called the Kizil Jilga, which is indicated by the blinking blue line. From these camps, patrols are run up to the border in vehicles. The areas where the roads run up to the LAC are carefully selected to keep an eye on Indian positions. The camp closest to the border is easily recognizable by reinforced concrete bunkers, a residential area, and the entire camp is surrounded by defensive trenches against attack, seen as curved lines. Some of these trenches may have access from underground tunnels. The next camp is further away, sitting on the banks of the Kizil Jilga. These may be mainly barracks, residential for troops stationed in the area. It appears capable of hosting about 200 men. This too has a defensive wall towards the river on the right side and a long trench line on the side away from the river. Next, we move to the southern part of Aksai Chin. This area is marked by two large lakes, the Pangong Lake and the Spanger Lake. The Pangong Lake is a saltwater lake of undrinkable water with almost no living creatures in it. It is 160 kilometers long and 40 kilometers of its western end are under Indian control. The area in this region is so rough and mountainous that almost all Chinese roads run only along the sides of the lakes. Roads marked in green color leading from the main highway extend along the north shore of Pangong and the south shore of Spanger Lake. The mountains in between the two lakes have no easily motorable roads and no visible military presence. The Chinese have maintained a fairly robust presence along the north shore of Pangong Lake. Dirt tracks leading into the mountains north of the lake end blindly at the LAC in areas where patrols can keep an eye on Indian positions. 20 kilometers from the LAC is a large PLA military camp with the usual features: reinforced concrete structures, a residential area, a helipad, and trenches as defense. A short way away near the lake shore is a small outpost, presumably to watch for activity on the lake, complete with concrete structures and zigzag defensive trenches. This small post does not appear to have residential space. Further west, continuing on the north shore of Pangong Lake, is another lakeshore camp with the usual features of reinforced concrete buildings and defensive trenches, residential space. The camp also has a jetty and several boats sitting in a row on the shore nearby. Finally, 100 kilometers from the LAC, near the main G219 highway at the western end of Pangong Lake, is a walled military compound with multi-story residential accommodation as well as air-conditioned storage structures by the side. This facility can probably house about 200 to 300 personnel. Next, we move on to the Spanger Lake shore. Close to the LAC and just 6 to 7 kilometers from the Indian airfield at Chushul is a showpiece military camp with a large Chinese flag etched on the ground. The camp has reinforced buildings, storage for material, residential space, communication antennas, military trucks, as well as the zigzag defensive trenches so characteristic of Chinese border camps. This camp also has a 1,800 square meter area demarcated at the back, which could serve either as a parade ground or an area for extra troops to set up camp in case of hostilities, or parking for trucks and vehicles. About 90 kilometers to the west lies the local military headquarters town of Rutog. Rutog is said to have many Tibetan monasteries and a population of just 1,000. But the PLA obviously has a large presence. Right in the middle of town is a walled and gated military compound with multi-story residential accommodation and military trucks parked outside. A short distance out of town is a large oil storage facility, the only one for the area. Nearby are more than 30 air-conditioned storage buildings, possibly for food and other perishable material. In summary, the Chinese do not maintain a very heavy military presence in the Aksai Chin area, and their logistic lines are long and tenuous. However, they do have a fairly robust presence around the Pangong and Spanger lakes and in the nearby town of Rutog, all supported from the military town of Ngari, 100 kilometers away. The town of Ngari will be dealt with in a separate video. Thank you for watching.